The U.S. has been relentless in pursuing something that it cannot prove, because evidence implicating what they are after is not there. The U.S. intelligence agency's account of an elaborate Russian conspiracy has been unsupported by solid evidence that implicates Russia of tampering with the U.S. presidential election to help Donald Trump win. The reasons why the U.S. officials are still after accusing Russia and what gains this has, along with its effect on Trump, is what we'll be discussing in this edition of the debate.
Russia has rejected U.S. allegations that Moscow interfered in the November 8th presidential election in favor of Donald Trump. The Kremlin has described the accusations as baseless.
These are baseless allegations substantiated with nothing, done on a rather amateurish, emotional level that is hardly worthy of professional work of truly world-class security services. We still don't know what data is really being used by those who present such unfounded accusations. Kremlin categorically denies any implication that it was responsible for the alleged hacking. We're growing rather tired of these accusations. It is becoming a full-on witch hunt.
The comments by the Kremlin spokesman are the first official reaction by Moscow to a report released by U.S. intelligence agencies on Friday on the issue. The report accuses Russian President Vladimir Putin of personally ordering a campaign of hacking and media manipulation to append the campaign of former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. The report was presented to President-elect Donald Trump on the same day. Trump has repeatedly expressed skepticism about Russia's role and has declined to say whether he agrees that the meddling was done in favor of him. He's also said improving relations with Russia would be a good thing. Incoming U.S. Chief of Staff Reince Priebus has also said Trump has accepted that Russia was responsible for the hacking, which allegedly targeted the Democratic National Committee and a top aide to Hillary Clinton. Analysts believe that the controversy surrounding alleged Russian interference in the U.S. election is aimed at delegitimizing the new U.S. president.
A lot of the Republican establishment has fallen into this massive campaign to sort of delegitimize Trump ahead of time. It's unprecedented that an incoming president is being attacked the way Trump is.
Some political commentators believe Trump will go ahead with plans to mend ties with Russia despite heavy criticism by Republicans and Democrats. They say the hacking allegations are actually a campaign to undermine his stated goal of improving relations between the longtime foes.
Here's a man being ganged up on, not only by the outgoing Obama administration, which doesn't even have the decency to leave quietly in its final days, but the media, of course, and a lot of people in Congress in both parties and elements of the intelligence community, and he's not backing down an inch. Here he had a classified briefing where presumably he was shown all the evidence that we don't get to see in public because of sources and methods. He evidently was not impressed, and he saw for exactly what it was, an effort to undermine his stated goal of improving relations with Moscow.
The hacking claims push ties between the U.S. and Russia, already at their lowest level since the Cold War, to a new nadir. Obama in December expelled 35 Russian diplomats and slapped sanctions on Moscow's main intelligence agencies over the alleged hacking. Putin refused to respond in kind to the measures as Moscow pins its hopes on Trump to improve ties. The incoming U.S. president will officially take office on January 20th. But it's still anybody's guess which course of action America's new commander-in-chief will take vis-a-vis Russia. Cooperation or confrontation.
Our guest joining us for this edition of the debate, publisher and editor of Politics First, Marcus Papadopoulos, joins us from London, and U.S. foreign policy and national security analyst Lawrence Korb joins us from Washington. Gentlemen, welcome. Lawrence Korb, let me start with you with a very simple question, although it may be quite complex. What exactly is the U.S. accusing Russia of?
Well, what the U.S. is accusing Russia of is basically hacking into the campaigns of both candidates and then revealing it during the campaign to undermine the whole democratic process. They're not accusing them of, undermining Mr. Trump's claim to victory. What they're saying is, if you hack these elections, what does that say about the whole democratic process? And there's no doubt about the fact that countries hack. China has been hacking onto our business and military before. The real issue is that then they leaked them to the WikiLeaks so that they became part of the discussion during the campaign. And the United States and its allies are concerned that they'll try and do the same thing in Germany, for example, which is having elections, Poland, Romania, lots of other countries. And so what they're saying is, basically, you're trying to undermine our democratic process, and you're going to pay a price for it.
Marcus Papadopoulos, you heard Lawrence Korb's vision there of what is occurring. What do you think?
Well, the evidence which has been put forward by the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI is at best circumstantial, unsubstantiated, and at worst is fanciful. And no legitimate, no proper court of law would accept the evidence which has been put forward by America's intelligence agencies. Indeed, only a kangaroo court would accept the evidence. And how ironic it is that America is making allegations of a foreign country having interfered in its internal politics, when of course America is the main violator, is the biggest violator of international law in the world, through the way it intervenes in the affairs of independent sovereign countries, and has resulted in many cases in those countries becoming war zones, for example, Syria, Libya, and Ukraine, or the American actions have resulted in countries simply going up in flames and no longer existing, for example, Yugoslavia. So my message to the American intelligence agencies is quite simple: put up or shut up. If you don't have proper evidence to support these assertions, these allegations against Moscow, then simply keep your mouth closed.
Lawrence Korb, is there a legitimate ground that the U.S. intelligence agencies have for the allegations that they are making? And isn't part of this to basically undermine Clinton during the elections? Is that one of the reasons why, well, one of the reasons stated by some of the intelligence agencies that that was something that Russia intended, and that it came from the higher echelons in Russia, including Putin?
Well, the intelligence aid, first of all we've seen is the unclassified version. Mr. Trump, President Obama, and the Congress this week will see the classified version. And it's going to be interesting to see how Republicans, now this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. You've had Republican senators like John McCain, who was a 2008 presidential campaign, Republican nominee, Lindsey Graham, basically saying, no, Russia did this. They're not getting into whether they influenced the outcome of the election. It's just that they did this. Now, we're going to get the classified version will be out. And if members of the Congress agree to your other guests, then I'm sure they'll speak out and say, no, there's no basis or anything, like this. They also pointed out that they have evidence. And remember, we got 17 different intelligence agencies. Many of these are not run by political appointees, have all agreed not only did they do it, but that they were happy with the outcome. I mean, they've talked about the evidence, for that. So we will find out, when this goes up before the Congress, and we have hearings on it. I think, we have hearings, and then we saw the members up there last week. General Clapper, who's the head of our intelligence community, he's been involved in this business for 50 years. He is not a political operative. He's basically saying, this is what we found out, and this is what you need to know about it so that we can have confidence in our future elections that they're run in a way that basically supports the values for which we stand.
One of the things that Lawrence Korb, I believe you said, and Marcus Papadopoulos would like to ask you, is how Russia has been accused that it had accessed the DNC and also Podesta emails, for example, and slipping them to WikiLeaks for publication. Now, one would think that the National Security Agency would have detected any type of electronic communications of that nature, and obviously to have informed the Clinton camp. So, in a sense, weaken, if not erase, the accusations that are being leveled by the U.S. against Russia on this?
Yes, I think it does. I would certainly argue that there are serious questions to be asked about why this information wasn't released before. And it certainly does undermine their argument now. We shouldn't be naive. Most of the most powerful countries in the world do engage in hacking. That has become the new form of espionage. However, as I said a few moments ago, the American intelligence services really need to support their allegations with credible evidence. Otherwise, we can all make grand assertions and get away with it. They have to be made accountable. And I would say that it's quite disconcerting, though not entirely surprising, that the Chief of Staff of President-elect Donald Trump has reportedly told Fox News that Donald Trump does accept that, quote, entities in the Russian Federation did interfere in the American presidential elections. So that really does say a lot, potentially, about what American foreign policy will be like under Donald Trump.
Lawrence Korb, if you were to examine all the different details and then look at the way that this has been pursued, even though you have, I believe it was John McCain who came out and said that, you know, we're not looking to change the results of the U.S. presidential election. Is there a worry, deep concern on the part of U.S. officials that they are afraid of Trump getting close to Putin, getting close to Russia, and therefore they want to instill this into Trump and his team?
No, I don't think that that's a concern at all. And going back to what our colleague in London said, the FBI did tell the Democratic National Committee about this. The message didn't get through the way that it should, that this was in fact occurring. I assume that they bugged both campaigns, that they were able to hack into both of them. The question is, why did they only give the stuff to WikiLeaks about one of the campaigns? But no, the intelligence community, these are career professionals. Admiral Rogers, who runs the NSA, he served for several presidents. As I mentioned, General, Clapper goes back to the John Kennedy years. So these are not people, who have an agenda. And the issue is, why didn't it come out before? The reason is that President Obama didn't want it to come out before the election, because then people would have said, oh, you're trying to balance it, for Hillary. He wanted to wait till after the election and then get it out, because the next administration is going to have to decide how to deal with Putin. Now, I would think it'd be great if we could have good relations with Russia, and they would back off in Crimea and basically stop buzzing, American ships in the Baltics, stop threatening the Baltics. But in fact, he'll find out President Obama tried to do it, as did President Bush. You may remember President Bush, when he met Putin, said, I've looked into his eyes, I can see his soul, I think we can do business with him. Well, it didn't turn out too well. Hillary Clinton had the reset button. That didn't turn out too well, so we'll have to see if Mr. Trump tries it and how it turns out.
I see you shaking your head. Go ahead, Marcus Papadopoulos.
That's a Hollywood version of events, and of course nothing is as simplistic as that in life, and especially in politics. No, it is America who, over the last 25 years, has created the tension which we see in the world today between the US and Russia. And how? Well, by a number of acts. Number one, expanding NATO eastwards onto the western borders of the Russian Federation, taking in countries which also used to be a part of the Soviet Union, i.e. the Baltic states. Also, the Americans have installed a missile defense shield on Russia's borders, which is a serious threat to the Russian strategic nuclear deterrent. Also, the Americans pulled out of the anti-ballistic missile treaty, which was a cornerstone treaty in securing global peace between the Soviet Union and America in the 1970s. And also we see how America has targeted Russia's friends and allies around the world. Yugoslavia in 1999, Libya in 2011, and of course Syria to the very present day. So no, it is not Russia which is in the wrong. It is firmly and squarely America. And while Donald Trump has made some statements which in my mind are positive about hoping to repair relations with Russia, he is an unknown quantity, and we mustn't be naive about him. And even if he genuinely is committed to improving relations with the Russian Federation, he's going to come up against an awesome opposition, not just from his own party, not just from Congress, but from the CIA, from the Pentagon, and from the State Department, as well as various lobby groups. So we need to watch this space. We need to see what sort of president Donald Trump is going to be, but no one should be overly optimistic that there's going to be a radical change in American foreign policy towards Russia.
Very well. We're going to take a quick time. I'll listen to some of your comments as posted on our Facebook page and return back to the debate.
Moscow is right. You have to show solid evidence of hacking. You can't wait till Trump is the president so all this nonsense can stop. Hasn't the U.S. influenced almost every Western country's election? Does anyone believe anything that is said by the American government anymore, apart from 80% of the American population? I don't think so. Face-saving ploy for Clinton by Obama. How childish, because even the incoming president doesn't agree with this madness. All of these tabloid stuff are for U.S. domestic consumption, and people with room temperature IQ seem to buy them like hot cake.
Okay, some of the Facebook page comments there. Lawrence Korb, we got to talk about this, and I'd like to get your reaction about how the Russian government-backed television network RT was mentioned in a report that was given out in a 7-page appendix, which dated back to the year 2012. What was your reaction when you heard about that? One of the things that it did, it accused the TV station of saying that the U.S. electoral process is undemocratic. And the proof of that was in an article on voting machine vulnerabilities.
Well, there's no doubt about the fact that our election system is not perfect. We don't allow people to register who should. The parties, what we call gerrymander the district so that they can keep control. A lot of our technology is 19th century technology when people vote. So we need to improve it. I think there is no evidence that the voting machines, as I understand your question, were compromised at all during this during this election. So, and that I think is a key thing, because if that had happened, then you have a whole different situation. But none of that has happened. Mr. Trump has said that, and I think everybody agrees with him on that. The real issue here is not whether Trump won or lost. He won. It's over. The real issue is, can we protect the integrity of our elections from foreign influence? Because the intelligence community, all 17 agencies, have concluded that Russia did try to influence the election and were pleased with the outcome. And I think that, and my colleague, when this information comes out, the highly classified stuff, they'll go before Congress. We'll learn more and more about it here, and we will make sure that this doesn't happen, because the last thing you want is for people to doubt the election. We'll have another one in 2020. Are people going to be sure that whoever wins or loses, that a foreign power is not tilted the election?
Marcus Papadopoulos, quickly running out of time. Maybe our memories need to be refreshed here based on the U.S. standing coming out making these types of allegations. And I'm looking at the the time back in 2013 where NSA's spy hub in Geneva was in the news, and basically Special Collection Services, 80 sites that I'm looking at all over the world, in which one of the ones in Geneva, the U.S. scanned the airwaves for cellular signals, intersecting wireless data packets, and sucking in satellite transmissions. And this was for the UN mission there in Geneva, of which the U.S. was accused of spying, and then we know how other countries the U.S. spied on. Well, spying to use that information in order to maneuver any type of decisions at the UN, I would consider that solid evidence, and this came out. So it does give the U.S. a weak footing, doesn't it?
As I said at the beginning of this program, America is the main violator of international law, of the UN Charter in the world. And if a country has, and I emphasize has, interfered in the American presidential elections of last year, then I can't say I would feel sorry for America, and I can't say millions upon millions of people around the world would feel sorry for America, because what goes around comes around. Action, reaction. Look how America attempted to interfere in the Iranian elections in 2009. Look how America has interfered in the internal affairs of Syria and has caused that wonderful, that historic country to go up in flames, resulting in the deaths, perhaps, of hundreds of thousands of people. So there should be no pity, there should be no sympathy shown towards America if a foreign country did interfere in their elections last year. And if I can very quickly pick up on the point about RT, it's preposterous and nonsense that RT is involved in the interfering of American politics. No, the reason why RT is being persecuted by the American political establishment and also by the British political establishment is because RT is exposing the double standards, the hypocrisy and the folly of Western foreign policy, something that the American and British governments didn't have to worry about in the 1990s and in the early 2000s, because of course there was no RT and there was also no PressTV then. So that is why RT is being persecuted, and quite frankly I would say this with confidence, that the world is a better place because we have alternative media today, PressTV and RT, because the American and British governments are being exposed for being the criminals they are.
Very well, we're going to end it there. Publisher and editor of Politics First, Marcus Papadopoulos there, and U.S. foreign policy and national security analyst Lawrence Korb spoke to us from Washington. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of The Debate. When we cover Taiwan, the entire team in the capital, Tehran, is goodbye.